Hello y'all, this is PrimeTron Zero, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the primes, all the primes, the history of the primes. I want to talk about the 13 primes, I want to talk about Sentinel Prime, Optimus Prime, and Rodimus Prime. But first off, I want to talk about Primus. In my opinion, he was the very first prime, the one who, he was also a planet. He became the planet Cybertron. But he also had a brother called Unicron, and he was the Chaos Bringer. But Primus was the god of light. He chose not to destroy, and him and his brother was really close. But his brother became evil. He wanted to destroy Unicron, so him and Unicron ended up fighting for decades, for centuries, and they were the original. They were actually the gods. They were the deities of the Transformers. And in my opinion, the very first prime was Primus. He became the planet Cybertron, and he's the god of light. And I think after that, you had the original 13 primes, which was, you had Solus Prime, you had Vector Prime, and then you also had, Vector Prime seemed really cool. Like, he seemed really skilled. He had, like, 2 swords. He seemed really cool. Then you had Solus Prime. And it seemed like the original 13 primes, they all had different abilities. They had different abilities from ordinary Transformers. They had special powers. They were very intelligent, and they were very skilled warriors. They were legendary. They were great warriors, and they ancient Transformers, and but it was one that became evil, and it was Megatronus, and he was he's also known as the Fallen, and he was the very first Decepticon. He started the war on Cybertron. He was the first one. He was the original Decepticon. And a lot of the Decepticons looked up to him. He's basically like the father of the Decepticons, and he was evil. He didn't like humans. He didn't care about any other life form. He was very vicious, and he was evil, and he betrayed the other 12, And there was a lot of primes, You had Primus, who ended up becoming the planet Cybertron. He ended up becoming a home world for the Transformers. But he became in very bad shape because during the wars of Cybertron, during the final days of Cybertron, it got so bad between the Autobots and the Decepticons that they had to leave the planet because the planet became unstable. So he was badly damaged, and I don't think he couldn't transform because, he wanted to become the homeworld, of the Transformers, Primus. And to me, he's the very, very first prime, he's the very first one. To me, I think he's like Prime 1, he's the very first prime. And then you had the original 13 primes, which was Solus Prime, Vector Prime, and Megatronus, which was the Fallen. You had all, but the Fallen betrayed his brothers. But then you also had other primes after that. You had Sentinel Prime, and I think it was in the G1 comic. It was one of the old comics, Transformer comics, that Sentinel Prime ended up dying during battle, and Optimus was holding him, and before he died, he passed the Matrix of leadership to Optimus, because Optimus was also a Prime, and I think it was some point in G1, they talked about the origins of Optimus Prime, and originally, he was known as Orion Pax. Like, before he was a Prime, he was Orion Prax. My fault, y'all. He was Orion Prax, and he looked up to Megatron, like he wanted to be a warrior, and one of the things that he liked about the Decepticons is that, before he became Optimus Prime, is that they were warriors, and that's what he wanted to be. He wanted to be like the Decepticons. He wanted to be a great warrior. But Megatron betrayed him, and he shot him, and Orion Pax almost died. But Alpha Trion took him in, and he converted Orion Pax into Optimus Prime. Now, in my opinion, Alpha Trion, I do think he's one of the 13 primes. I think he's a prime, Alpha Trion, And, but also you had Sentinel Prime, who was originally the commander of the Autobots, and he was very intelligent, and he was a skilled warrior. He was a great warrior, he was very skilled, and he was very intelligent, and he created the pillars, which forms a space bridge. But in the live-action movie, Sentinel Prime became a Decepticon. He betrayed his Autobot brothers. He took the life of Ironhide, and he did that because he wanted to, he made a deal with Megatron so they could rebuild Cybertron. They could, so they can save their planet, to rebuild their planet, And so I guess he was like the second prime that I have to say that betrayed his brothers. It was almost kind of like history repeated itself. It was the Fallen who betrayed the other 12, and then you had Sentinel Prime, who was originally the commander of the Autobots, which Optimus and them looked up to as a father figure, And I remember Optimus was saying, "You was the one that taught me freedom is everyone's right," And Optimus wanted to know why, And he was saying, for Cybertron, for our home, the more we destroy, the more we can rebuild, But only if we join the Decepticons. And Optimus was like, "No, this is not the only way, It's not the only way, So, Sentinel, I guess he was like the second prime that kind of became evil pretty much. He became a Decepticon, Which I guess it was a hard decision for him, but yeah. But he was commander of the Autobots before Optimus. So you had Sentinel Prime, then you had Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime is my favorite, To me, he's like one of the greatest warriors of all time, Optimus Prime. And he's very trustworthy, and I just feel like he's just a great warrior. He's definitely one of my favorites, Optimus Prime. But also you had one of the last primes that they introduced in the history of Transformers was, it was in the G1 animated movie, the 1986 G1 animated movie, and he was originally known as Hot Rod, and he was a great warrior. He loved to fight, and he's very tough, and he was the protector of Daniel Witwicky, who was the son of Spike Witwicky, or should I say Sam Witwicky, but and he was really close. Him and Daniel formed a bond, but he was very tough. Like whenever it was a battle, he was always, he's really tough. I have to say he was tougher than Bumblebee and G1 in the G1, But what I like about the live action movie, Hot Rod, is that, I like how him and Bumblebee are like brothers in arms, I like that, I like how they also introduced him in The Last Knight, but he became Rodimus Prime near the end of the 1986 animated movie. It was when him and Galvatron was fighting, and Galvatron was very powerful, and they were inside Unicron's body, and Hot Rod at some point got a hold of the Matrix, And the Matrix chose him. He was the chosen one. The Matrix chose him. And when he got a hold of the Matrix, the power of the Matrix made him grow, you know. It made him stronger, and it made him a Prime. And this is when he transformed into Rodimus Prime. He wasn't Hot Rod no more. He was Rodimus Prime. And he was stronger. And he was like, this is the end of the road for you, Galvatron. And he just picked him up and he threw him, you know. And that's when he defeated Galvatron, you know. And he also used the Matrix to destroy Unicron. And that's when Unicron lost his body, you know. And he used the Matrix. He was like, light our darkest hour, you know. And when he grabbed a hold of the Matrix, you know what I mean, as he was growing, it's one of my favorite parts too. It's classic. You hear Optimus Prime voice in the Matrix. You hear him, and he was saying, "Arise, Rodimus Prime," and Rodimus was like Optimus, you know. So that's one of my favorite parts. Now, when he's Rodimus Prime, he's more bigger, he's more stronger, and he's more intelligent. You know what I mean? And he became the leader. He took Optimus Prime's place, and he became the leader of the Autobots. You know, he became Rodimus Prime. And when he transformed, he's not just a car. He's a car with a trailer. You know what I mean? So, and he also has a gun that's sort of similar to Optimus Prime. He has like a cannon, like a big gun that's sort of similar to Optimus Prime. And I have to say, I really love all the Primes, you know. But my number one favorite Prime is Optimus Prime. And to me, I really think that the very first Prime was Primus. You know, he was the very first Prime. He was Prime 1, I think, you know. You know, the God of Light, you know, and he became the planet Cybertron. He became the home world of Cybertron. Then you had the original 13 Primes. Then you had Sentinel Prime. You know what I mean? And then you had the, you had the Fallen. You had the original 13 Primes. You had the Fallen. The Megatronus. You had Sentinel Prime. Then you had Optimus Prime. And then last but not least, the last Prime was Rodimus Prime, you know. And I just love talking about the history of the Primes, y'all. And I just think that one thing I could say about all the Primes, they were all great warriors, and they were all skilled, and they all had special abilities, you know what I mean? And they were all very intelligent, you know. And original 13 Primes, they had a lot of power. They had special abilities. I think Solus Prime, he had the ability to go through time. Yeah, go through different dimensions. And I do believe Alpha Trion was definitely a Prime. You know, for some reason, I think he's a Prime. He's definitely one of the 13. And then you had the Fallen, who originally, his name is Megatronus, and he was the original Decepticon. And he was very powerful too, you know. And he made many appearances. He made an appearance in the Transformers comic. He didn't make that many appearances. But he also made an appearance in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Transformers 2. You know, and what I like about it is that they talk about the history of the Primes. They first talked about them in G1, but they also talked about them in the later seasons of Transformers Prime. I think it was during the episode when they introduced Unicron, you know. In Transformers Prime, they talked about the history of the Primes. And in Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen, they definitely talked about the history of the Primes there. You know, we got a glimpse of the 13 Primes as well, you know. And I have to say, I really liked all the Primes, you know. And I just want to know from my subscribers, what's your favorite Prime? And I just want to make a shout out to all my subscribers. And I just want to say peace and love to each and every one of you. And my prayers go out to all of you, to all my subscribers. And I just want to say thank you all for your support. And I just want to know for y'all, what's your favorite Prime? You know, is it Rodimus Prime? Is it Optimus Prime? Is it the Fallen? Megatronus? Is it Primus? You know, the God of Light? could also